Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon, and this is Scale Your Sales Podcast. Welcome, Scale Your Sales Posted number 9 of 40 podcasts for every salesperson. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn Sales as one of 15 innovating influencers to follow. In today's of Scale Your Sales podcast, my guest talks about his diagnosis of being bipolar and his experience to navigate a career in sales, and now in how he has grown his business. In actual, it's become quite foundational to his business in focusing on well-being and supporting other salespeople as they navigate their careers. So the key focus is performance and mindset. My next guest is CEO and founder of Sales Confidence, building the world's most valuable B2B sales community, helping salespeople and sales leaders at each stage of their careers with their mindset, well-being, and performance via an exclusive learning and development membership platform. Welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, James Ski.
Well, thank you for having me. I've followed your podcast for a long time now. It's been amazing, the number of sales confidence speakers, experts and coaches and mentors that you've had. And so it was fantastic when we found a time that we could convene to connect and have this conversation. So I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, and there's a lot to cover because you've certainly done a lot in your career. So we'll get to kind of sales confidence, and that's where we reconnected again recently after the pandemic, when you were able to move back in the room. And there's certainly a huge level of excitement and engagement you put on your events. So we're going to talk about sales confidence, so everyone that's listening to this knows about it. But I first want to start with your background of, you've brought lots of other sales technologies into the UK. So tell me more about that, how all of that happened.
Sure. So I guess, I've spent the majority of my career working for early stage and kind of scale up SaaS companies, many of them founded in the UK. But I guess where I got a lot of insight and experience was working for LinkedIn. And I spent almost 4 years at LinkedIn as a director responsible for LinkedIn's largest enterprise accounts in Europe. So companies like Burberry, Lloyds Banking Group, Just Eat, many other big FTSE 100 companies were my customers. And I had to persuade them how to leverage LinkedIn from a hiring, a sales and a marketing perspective. And at the time, I fell in love with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a tool for salespeople to generate more leads, create more opportunities, and drive more revenue. And I also, through time and effort, became the #1 user on LinkedIn at LinkedIn in the world. So at one point, I had a social selling index of 98 out of 100. I was the #1 on LinkedIn globally. And as a result of that, I started to attract a bit of attention. The reason I came partly #1 is because also I started to do research, particularly into the US market, in where these new generations of sales technologies were coming from. Now, if you look at the marketing and sales technology space, well, in fact, if you go back further, it all originated from the adoption to cloud of the CRM, which was Salesforce, right? Salesforce created this ecosystem of cloud apps and cloud first technology. And then you had the advent of marketing automation. So you may remember the likes of Marketo, Eloqua, platforms that were helping companies get more data into their database. Then what we've seen over the last 5+ years is sales tech. And so essentially, I saw this opportunity, having worked at LinkedIn with Sales Navigator, that there was going to be a market in the UK, EMEA, for bringing new sales technologies to the UK. And I essentially became the man on the ground to help the likes of SalesLoft, ZoomInfo, 6sense, HighSpot, Exactly, you name them, pretty much all of the world's best sales technologies have worked with me to open up their office, build their brands via our community and my expertise in the UK and Europe.
Excellent. Be interesting how, starting from LinkedIn, how that, continued to, you developed your interest and skill set that led to many more opportunities with other organizations, global, that have grown enormously, because this was going back from 2018, wasn't it? Where LinkedIn
Correct.
really started to gain ground, wasn't it? And then the pandemic has accelerated that.
You're right. I mean, look, to give you an idea, when I joined LinkedIn in, I think, 2015, there was about 300 million members. There's now 1 billion members on LinkedIn. So exponential growth, right, over the last kind of 8 years or so, and it will continue to grow. I think like what they call the working population of the world is like 3 billion, I think. That was the last quote I read. So, there's still massive potential for LinkedIn, and, both of us benefit hugely out of that platform.
Yeah, interesting. So from there to sales confidence, how did that leap come in?
So personally, I've always harbored the ambition to build my own business. I wanted to build a global company, and I just happened to start with events because a VC friend of mine said, listen, you need to build a brand, you need to get attention, you need to trust, and you need to get people in the room. So in my mind, that was an event. And then I kind of fell into running events. I actually wanted to build my own software business. That didn't happen in that time frame. But the reason I also created Sales Confidence, and our focus is on helping salespeople and sales leaders at each stage of their career with their mindset, well-being, and performance, is because I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So bipolar manic depression is a mood disorder. I experience high highs, low lows. And so the essence of confidence is about helping people in sales overcome the challenges of a very stressful role. And I kind of wanted to build my own community and tribe around that concept. And that's how sales was born.
So when were you actually diagnosed?
Personally, I was diagnosed when I was 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I would imagine that there's been, a journey just personally for yourself to actually manage and understand your own diagnosis and how you can, kind of navigate your way through it. And not only that, the kind of health system as well to support you.
Well, you're right. So, I'm now 37. I've spent over 200 nights in mental health hospitals over this period of time. I've been in 7 hospitals. I've seen, the worst and the best of people inside mental health hospitals. And I guess my takeaway from that is, I genuinely believe that I've kind of cracked a code of how you can rebuild your confidence when you've lost it. And I've been in very difficult depressive episodes where I've been able to kind of work my way out of it. And, yes, I am an extreme case, and I hope people don't experience what I've had to experience. But even on just a level of, not hitting your number for a month or a quarter, or not delivering, or being made redundant, which happened to thousands, tens of thousands of people in tech last year, but particularly salespeople. These are all shocks to the system. How you respond, how you recover, how you pick yourself up, how you build yourself back up, how you remove imposter syndrome. These are all important mindset traits which I do feel, I've got an insight into kind of helping others improve.
It's really interesting that you went into sales, because it can be brutal.
Well, it's funny you identify that. Pretty much every doctor recommended me not to, because they were like, listen, that is a roller coaster. You already have a condition that doesn't favor someone that, gets stress highs and lows. But I always knew I was going to be in sales. I personally didn't fall into sales. I wanted to pursue sales as a career because I knew business owners and I wanted to be in business. So, yeah, you're right. It's definitely not, kind of made for things easier. I'm sure maybe you experienced this as a business owner. The good thing about being a business owner is I do decide to target. And if I don't hit a target that I've constructed 1 month, so what? Whereas when you're an employee and you don't hit that target, you feel the pressure. So there is a blessing once you start becoming, a business owner, and how that target is kind of divvied up.
And I would imagine you would know more. There is a real lag in sales, and because you're talking about this really important subject. But I would imagine that when you were working as an employee in sales, you got no support, no understanding, no acknowledgement. No one really wanted to know. You're now talking about that surely because of this experience that, even HR at that time probably just, it's kind of like completely foreign to them. You don't know how to deal with this and all of that. So I would imagine, just being in the workplace, regardless of sales being pretty brutal, just in the workplace, you didn't get supported at all.
Yeah, I would say that's correct in part. So for me personally, actually, and I think a lot of young people find this if they've had a diagnosis early in their life, is that they don't want to bring it up. So it's a self-stigmatization. You think if I share this condition, whatever it might be related to mental health, then that might impact my career progression, etc., etc. I would say LinkedIn in particular is very big on diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and taught me a lot about difference and accepting yourself. And that was really the first place I opened up about my condition. And the response I got was very, very positive and supportive. In fact, when I was at LinkedIn, I had to take 6 months out for my illness, and they were incredibly supportive. So they can do that because they're a corporate multi-billion organization, and they know how to look after people. Not as easy for small businesses, SMEs. And also, I would say that in the UK, at least, I can really only speak for the UK. HR management are much more up to speed about mental ill health. They might not be equipped to manage or handle it, but I do think there's a better awareness in this country than there's ever been.
I would imagine, though, you've seen that better awareness come out of the pandemic as well, because there's been so much talk about it in the public eye.
I agree. Yes. I think even if you didn't have an underlying condition, of course the pandemic impacted you, right? Just being a human being, it was just such a shock to the system for everyone, and obviously people suffered more than others, unfortunately. And I think we all had to kind of become more self-aware, understand ourselves, and navigate that. And I still think there is a lag now. I think people are still trying to figure out like where they sit in the workplace or in life or in their career. And that will take some time to kind of clean out from the system. But I think as a result, people are more kind, and I do think people are more aware. But you can't get away from the human condition, and you can't get away from the stressful environment of sales. To bring it back to sales, at the end of the day, we're in business, and
Yeah.
you're being paid to perform. And if you do not perform, unfortunately, we cannot longer support you.
Right. So are you talking to organizations about, this kind of dichotomy between having to support people in sales, the fact that we've got many more shock to the systems, not only the pandemic, but just in the way that the economy is constantly, kind of on wars as well, how that's affecting the supply chain and everything like that. Do you actually, I know with sales competence, it's very much the individuals and people and mentoring and all of that, but do you also talk to the organizations about what they need to do to better support the individuals within sales?
Yeah, so we do. We do support sales teams, and we advise leaders on how they can support their salespeople with their mindset, well-being, and performance. Say though is you still have to talk numbers and performance and ROI. If I just went in there and said, look, we can improve the well-being of your sales team, no one's interested. And that is the truth, I have to say, unfortunately. Whereas you can go in there with a clear business case on upside. It's similar to selling software in some ways. Like, unless you can prove that you're going to give them a return, they won't entertain it. So yes, people are more open and they are more kind. They will talk about it, but it's still business, and they want to get business done. And these businesses are not charities, and they're not schools, and they're not your family, and so a lot of it is left to your own. That's in some ways why we benefit, because people just come direct to us and get the support direct. But really, I believe that companies should be investing in those areas that I mentioned. But their willingness to do that, and their preparation or being prepared to do that, only comes if they can see the ROI on performance. That's the bottom
Right.
line.
So how do you prove the ROI on performance then?
Yeah. So, our goal is to improve sales productivity, which is sales output. Reducing sales cycles, increasing the number, volume of deals that are closed, and the size of deals that are closed, and from a combination of kind of educating, inspiring, and coaching the sales reps that we support as part of the Sales Confidence membership. And our belief, well, some of the data we've got in terms of teams that we work with, if individuals within their teams are committed and they're showing up, we do have an incremental improvement. In fact, I mean, this is a bit ahead of the game, but I don't mind sharing with you. Like, we're so confident now with our deliverables that we are about to implement a guarantee that if your team doesn't achieve X number of upside, then you will not have to pay. And that for us is a nice, being confident indicator that we're there to deliver on those outcomes.
I don't know, OMG research says that 77%, this is from assessments of 2.45 million salespeople across in the world, so it's like 100 and 200 industries, 158 countries. So the research says that 77% of salespeople should not be in sales. So I think one of the problems is that often salespeople are in the wrong role for what their natural strengths are. They don't offer what they are, because we do sales training and we're told to, follow the process. But actually, it's not really looking at where your natural strengths are. And so many are in the wrong role. Many of them should be in a different industry, a different job entirely. So that's where the kind of 50% of salespeople do not hit sales target comes from, because they're in the wrong role, or they're, for a sales role, or actually they shouldn't be in sales. How does that work with the way that you approach kind of sales productivity?
Well, so that's an interesting question. So, by the time this comes out, my book, How to Build Sales Confidence, will probably be published and available. And actually, my editor asked me to take out a chapter which is called How to Get Out of Sales. But I persuaded her to keep it in, because I said to her, actually, a lot of the reasons why people are under stress is because it's not the right fit for them, and they need to work themselves out. And that's okay. Like, don't worry, it's fine. If it's not right for you, move on and you'll be happier. So I think, that's a tricky one. I don't think we're set up necessarily right now to identify people in businesses to say to their director or sales leader, this person is for it. I don't think that's for us to say, because I think if you decide that you're looking for something else, then you really don't need to be part of our, membership. So, yeah, I don't think I've got, a clear proposition on how we could kind of help identify those individuals in a company.
Yeah. Well, we do. And that's why I know that the stats, there is, I have access to this database of what great looks like for, every position, role, and so forth. But, the thing that I did warn you before this, there was on LinkedIn, you were asking for more sales people to step up, particularly women. So you said, guess what? 140 of the people that applied to speak at Sales Confidence were men, no women. And you said, I'm asking you to back yourselves, put yourself forward if you have the expertise and experience. And so this did irk me a little bit. I didn't respond initially, although lots of people put my name forward to speak. And I really wanted to kind of like talk to you because my view is that women do back themselves. And the reason why I suppose many like myself may not have applied is because my impression is unpaid. It's 7 minutes, and you have to think about the investment of your time for something that's unpaid if you're a professional speaker. And but the fact that you said back yourself was some really did irk me. And I said to you in the organizations need to turn the finger from there to there 180 degrees and ask themselves, is this the organization, the culture where women want to be represented? I often see a lot of men on stages and a lot of white men on stages in the sales environment, and we need to start changing that. Yes, women need to come forward and minorities need to come forward, but they're only going to come forward if they feel that the organization reflects them. So maybe we need to look at organizations not reflecting them, not speaking their language, rather than being kind of like challenging. So I really wanted to kind of have a discussion with you around this, about, women not backing themselves.
Sure. And I appreciate your framing around that. And this is a sensitive topic in some areas. So a couple of challenges. Number one, generally, the further you get up in sales leadership, the less women leaders there are. You have the reports on that. The stats will tell you that. Naturally, being in a minority means you are in a minority. There are just less of you as well. There's less people in a minority group. So it's also harder to sometimes identify those individuals. I've had every shape, size, color, type of person, neurodiversity speak at sales confidence over the last 5+ years. And I've also had embarrassing moments, and I'll hold my hands up, where I've organised an event, and out of the 6 speakers, 1 was women. The woman drops out, and I've got 5 speakers, and they all happen to be white bald men, as an example. Nothing against white bald men. So, these are true of running this. These things just happen, right? Now, in terms of the backing yourself comment, in particular, I stand by that in the fact that everyone should back. It's not specific or men. I just feel everyone should stand up and back themselves. And I introduce people time and ask for nothing. It's just goodwill. A lot of what I've created, and I believe why people like me or respect what I do in this industry, is because I give it back to this industry. And while our 7-minute talks in those 5 years have never been paid, so that is correct, you do know that, I am introducing people to paid opportunities all the time, because people come to me as an opportunity. So, on face value, people can opt in, and I actually do question that other people should someone else. It shouldn't be necessarily down to the individual. So I would love to see male sales leaders suggest XYZ. And so actually, that post, as a prime example, did create and stimulate debate, some controversy, some unhappiness. Cases, so led to 100 women putting themselves forward and now creating opportunities. So, look, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm going to get it right every time. Not everyone's going to agree with my language choices. Offended some people. I'm coming from a good place, is I guess the point I'm trying to make here. I'm genuinely trying to help all people in the sales industry gain more confidence, put themselves out there, and your point, you can't inspire the next generation of women unless they see themselves like them on stage. And so that was my motivation.
Yeah, okay, kind of accept that. Your questionnaire, in order to apply, wanted to know the company, nothing wrong with that, and all the other kind of information, but how many salespeople are in your current? Does your company have a personal development budget? And how you want to earn in 24? And you're asking for a speaker. So what questions have to do with, and also the assumption is it's coming from somebody, not coming necessarily from a professional speaker, so you're actually appealing to one that's already in a larger company. And then what does the budget have to do with them coming on stage and speaking?
So great questions. So you're right. The personal budget question, personal development budget actually just got left in. It was a slip up. We had it on a different form. Okay, so I can hold my hands up there, and you've got that now on record. And the amount you earn is actually important for us because talks are based on the level of earnings achieved. So we put on series specifically around financial expertise. And part of what we are doing is inspiring people to move from 100K earning per year to 200K earning per year. So if you're an aspiring person that wants to earn 200K per year, I'm not going to pick up a speaker that's only earning 50K right now. So that's that. Now, you're right to say, well, that might be more relevant for people that are employed versus solos or speakers that are self-employed. But I'm trying to catch all in one way, and not every question is going to fit the profile, but that question, I personally don't have an issue with it.
Yeah. It just felt like you're actually fishing for business. Like you're going to have speakers where they're going to have a development budget, and then sales confidence can get into that company. That's what it felt like by those questions.
Feedback.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's move on there. And I think you did really well. I do like to challenge people, but I know you're in sales, you're used to this, so that's not a problem. So I would like to kind of understand a little more about the kind of mindset, well-being, performance in sales. Like what makes what you're doing uniquely different to what others may do in this area?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think a lot of sales experts, sales influencers, gurus, most of their time talking about the hard skills, the practical process, the medic, the med pick, the Sandler, the follow these parts of the CRM must be completed. Yeah, that for me is not what moves the needle. What moves the needle is creating value, building relationships, and understanding the problems of the company. And most of that is to mindset and how you tell stories and the dialogue that you tell yourself, as well as the dialogue that you tell others. So if I'm honest, performance is the outcome. The practical hard skills are like this. The mindset is here. And for me, well-being is just holistic. It goes around it all. If you don't do anything in a sustainable way, you can burn out, get ill, and it will impact your outcome and therefore performance. So those pillars really come from personal experience. The fact that I have had the good fortune of accessing thousands of sales leaders over the last 5 years, building the biggest networking community in SaaS sales in Europe, if not becoming globally now. And I have seen time and time again that those with self-awareness, great empathy, incredible emotional intelligence, curiosity and the ability to tell a good story are much more successful in the top percentile than other people. And I would love eventually to actually get that backed up by science and data. We're just not there yet.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Love that. Love that. Okay. So who is your hero or shero?
So my personal hero, I guess, as an entrepreneur, is one of the dragons of Dragon's Den called Peter Jones. Peter Jones went to the Windsor, which I had the good fortune of going to, very lucky. And he's an entrepreneur. He's also an investor. He's also a bit of a media personality. And I guess if I could get somewhere close to achievement, impact, because he has a foundation, inspires the next generation of entrepreneur hero.
Yeah, I've met Peter Jones and was interviewed with him. Wow, he's tall.
He's taller than me.
He's really tall. Yeah.
He's a big guy. Yeah, I'm 6'4". I think he's 6'6", 6'7", maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure he's 6'7", 6'8". He is tall. Yeah, but a really lovely person. So yeah, he is doing great things. Just remind us about you coming out.
Great, I appreciate that. Yes. So it's called How to Build Sales Confidence. And it focuses on those 3 pillars that we've talked about today in terms of mindset, well-being, and performance. And ultimately, I believe anyone at any stage of their sales career can benefit from it. I think particularly if you're starting out in sales, if you're in later stages, it could be a refresher, or there'd be a few nuggets in there that you would find valuable to enhance what you're doing in your career.
Excellent. So how can listeners get hold?
I'm an open book, so you can find me on any social channel. Just search for James Ski Sales Com. You can check out sales.com, or you can even at james@salesconfidence.com.
Excellent. Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, and challenging questions. It's been enjoyable. I appreciate you, Janice, and I always look forward to bumping into you. Look forward to hanging out more this year.
All right, you take care. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.